Hello. So I wanted to just record the demo that I've gone over a few times in class, and I'm going to go over the more complicated but kind of more flexible and accurate approach. Okay, so step one is just preparing your artwork and being cognizant of the resolution. So I'm working in Illustrator, so I don't really need to worry about um, zooming into things. It's all vector, but just to make my life a little easier, when I'm setting up my artboard that I'm going to track across, you would want your height to be no less than 1080 pixels because our final piece is going to be 1920 by 1080. All right, so that's one thing to think about, the final resolution and having your height be no less than 1080. Another really important thing is to separate your layers based on where they are in space, right? So we have foreground objects, and I have one hill, then another hill, then things way in the distance, and then clouds, and then the background. And we can call this celestial stuff, like really far away things like sun and stars or even distant clouds that don't move at all. We also want to name everything here so that when we import it into After Effects, we can see what we're doing, right? So separating things into layers based on depth, making sure the height of this is at least 1080. That's all really important stuff that's going to make this slightly less painful. All right. All right, so I'm over in After Effects. I'm going to double click on the project panel, find my file, and I'm looking to import it as composition retain layer sizes. All right. So the first thing I want to do, because it's going to come in, let me zoom out a little bit, as this wide thing, and our piece is going to be 16:9. So the first thing we want to do is set the composition to the right aspect ratio. So this will be 1920 by 1080. All right, the next thing we're going to need to do, I'm going to turn this off and just hide those, is create a camera. And that camera, definitely you want it to be a one node camera. I'm going to select 20 millimeters. Okay. Then I'm going to make everything but my background 3D. All right, and then we're going to do this special trick. So how this is going to work is we're almost going to be like projecting our images into the scene. And for that to work, we need to scale each layer from the point of view of the camera. So if I put this to 2 points of view, you can kind of see what's happening. All right, so there's our main point of view. And here we go from the top. So this background layer is 2D, so it's not dependent on where the camera is. All right, and then we have our camera. This triangle's the fulcrum, the field of view of the camera. And then we have all our layers that are 3D, but they're right on top of each other. So the first thing we need to do is create a null so that we can scale each of these layers from the point of view of the camera. So the null, it's 2D. When we switch it to 3D, the cursor changes. And right now, the camera is over here, and the null is over there. So if we ever wanted to move something into the position of something else, you make it a child of that object, and then zero it out. And see, now the camera and the null are in the same position in space. So when we do that, we want to detach it from the camera. Otherwise, it's going to just kind of go along with it. And for each layer, we are going to need a null. Oh, actually, for each layer with the exception of the foreground layer, which is going to be at 0, and the background layer, which isn't even 3D, you're going to need a null. And I would also recommend just naming everything so you can see, so you can keep track of what's going on. This is hill 1. This is hill 2. Okay, so camera, null, extracted the position, and then duplicated that null, one for each layer. And then for each layer, we're going to scale it from a null. All right. And how this should work, so we'll start from the background here, is from my active view, nothing should change, but from the top, the layer should slide back. So the clouds will do really far away. And then the trees. Trees. Hill 2. All right. And then we'll turn on our background. And we can kind of see how this is behaving by moving our camera. And it seems to be working out just fine. That's it. Okay,